Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and welcome to another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. Joining me, as always, is the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman, Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing? It's week 3, week 4 out in Sacramento?
Something like that. I lost track. But yeah, it's something like that. I got another 2.5 weeks till the fight, so it's getting towards the end of the camp. But I feel good, man. I feel good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to, hang in there, stay warm as we've got hit with a bit of snow here,
it's crazy.
as always does with April. But you get that one little bit of snow. But I'm doing well. I mean, it's good to see that if you follow Josh on Instagram, you see he's training with some of the biggest and baddest out there with Team Alpha Male, with like Mason Jones and Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the main reasons I love coming out here, right? Because there's always just top notch guys in the room, and today I was working with Cody specifically today, and it was a great training session.
Yeah, well, and Cody's got a fight coming up pretty soon too, so that's got to be good, getting some good work in. And Cody's one of the guys you always work with, pretty much when you're down there, right?
Yeah, we've been working together for years, right? So, but yeah, it's always good when we both have fights that kind of line up and we're both in camp, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good to see that your camp is going well. I mean, as you said, you got the couple weeks before your big fight on arguably the biggest Bellator card I've seen in quite a while, Bellator 257. So it's got to feel fun that you're involved with such a big night for the promotion.
Yeah, it's a stacked card, man. Probably one of the best cards I've seen put on, but they just keep adding more guys to it. I thought it was done, and then it keeps going. Now they got MVPs on there.
Yeah.
There's another pretty good fight too that I forget about that. But anyways, yeah, it's pretty stacked, man. It's a good one.
Yeah, well, we can't wait for that upcoming event. That's May 7th on YouTube in Canada and Showtime out in the United States. But Josh, let's get into it, because it was a busy week of combat sports, and I think the event that caught everyone's eye, it wasn't so much the UFC, though their main event was pretty competitive and a really good main event between Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum. It wasn't Bellator, even though their light heavyweight Grand Prix is really in full gear and Corey Anderson looked great. It was Triller. It was the Triller pay-per-view headlined by Ben Askren and Jake Paul. First of all, Josh, what did you buy it? Did you check out the event? And if so, what'd you think of it?
Of course I didn't buy it. Like, come on. But I did catch some of it. I was trying to get it. I'm out here, so I was just trying to stream it. And every time it kept skipping on me, but I was able to find a decent one, and I was able to watch somewhat of the Trig fight. I got bits and pieces of it, and then I was able to watch the full main event. But man, just, oh God, it was like worst case scenario happened for Askren. And I thought this would happen. You know what I mean? I didn't think he would win. Did I think he'd get starched in the first minute or whatever it was? No, but I thought it was going to happen. But I don't know, man. Like, I guess people can find it entertaining, but like listening to the commentary was it was like a circus sideshow mixed with a bunch of like just guys in their basement getting high and drunk and just talking shit over top of each other. So it was hard to follow and to watch that.
Yeah, their commentary was definitely something interesting. You could tell in the Trig Steve Cunningham fight with Oscar De La Hoya and his shenanigans that went on.
Out of his head, eh?
Man, like that was one of the wildest. I mean, I guess we're on it. Let's talk about it. Like, that to me was like the turning point where this show really went like either downhill, but it was a car crash with Oscar. You couldn't look away, but you still felt bad for him and knew you shouldn't be paying attention. But like, how did someone not get the mic away from him, considering he was clearly not in the right state?
I don't think they care. I just think it'll bring more views. It's like trailer trash TV, like Jerry Springer shit. They just want more of that. It feels like, you know what I mean? So I think it's totally whatever happens, and that's what they want. I guess that's appealing in some ways, but yeah, man, it was so bad, like some of it, and yeah, De La Hoya, man, like I don't know what's going on with him, but he's come back to fight. Like,
Yeah, in
what do
July.
I'll fight him. He's looking for a scrap. I mean, probably a little bit bigger than me, but I'll be happy to step in there with Oscar De La Hoya if he's looking to come back. And if they're doing this whole MMA versus boxer type thing, I'll be the first one to step up.
Well, that seems to be kind of right now the gimmick with Triller, especially with like Jake Paul. It's Jake Paul versus all of MMA because you see, if you've just, finished Askren, we kind of knew that would happen. Plus, like Ben's also coming off hip replacement surgery, right? So you could see he had the physique of a guy that hadn't really got the most training in, like that you would expect he would, and had the worst hands out of anyone in MMA. But now all these MMA fighters are trying to take their shot because they know that it'll bring eyeballs on their career, and they're getting the best payday they've ever had.
That's the crazy thing, right? Like when you look at, I seen somebody posted, it was the payouts for the team. It was like 650 for Jake Paul and 500,000 for Askren, and then it showed Whittaker and Gastelum, and it was something like 200,000 and 120,000 or something like that. And these are two of the best middleweights in the world, legitimately. And that was like some kind of circus sideshow that would just, because a YouTuber was fighting. So it just like, it's crazy that they're getting paid that, and the legit, best in the world are getting paid that. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, but I mean, like with Triller, first of all, like this is a company that's clearly bought in. And they have money, they have financial backing. They just
nothing against Triller. If they're willing to do it and pay, then great. That's awesome. It's better for the fighters, for any fighters, right? But it's just like it's crazy that we're in the state of the world where that is getting paid more than the top professionals.
Yeah, I spoke with Sean Wheelock, who was the rules expert, former Bellator commentator, and does a bunch of other commentary. But like the way he put it to me was the best. It's kind of Triller's taken the Pride circus of like New Year's Eve and whatever, mix it with like pro wrestling and live music, and that's what we have now. And it's going to continue to find a way to draw, whether you like it or not. Like they found this home to bring in the casual fan that would never buy a boxing pay-per-view to see these wild, weird fights. And they're also touching in on that Jerry Springer car crash TV that was so popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. And good on them, right? They found a niche. It's wild. I had no idea what I was watching at times, but I was entertained. And the thing is, they also, like their next pay-per-view for boxing-wise, they have Teofimo Lopez, who is arguably one of the best boxers. So they also are presenting the quality side as much as they're presenting the steak with the sizzle as well with the Jake Paul fights.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not hating on Triller. That's cool. Do your thing. It's just like, I guess it just creates like this thing now of like, oh, you're gonna see all these people saying like Jake Paul is one of the best boxers in the world, and MMA fighters can't box. Look what happened to Askren. And we just sent a guy that is a wrestler, grappler, who's always, like you said, one of the worst strikers in the sport, and was retired and just had hip surgery. It wasn't training, you know what I mean? So we couldn't have picked a worse person to actually do this mixed match. I would love it. Why don't they do? I mean, are they just doing strictly boxing? Why don't they do an MMA fight? Like, I'd have Jake Paul fight a real MMA fighter. That'd be cool. Like, what I mean? Instead of strictly just doing boxing. But I get they're just, that's their little world that they're trying to keep it in.
Because if Jake Paul fights MMA, he gets killed, and that kills the gimmick, right? So if Jake Paul boxes and just picks who he wants to box, that's just the cash cow. It's just continues to create big bucks for them. But I don't know. And like, look, Jake Paul, you can say what you want about him. He does have like a somewhat decent skill. Like he's got good footwork and obviously a big overhand right.
Yeah, I said that before. I said, like, just from seeing the one fight that he had, and he fought some schlub that shouldn't have been there, but just watching him move and whatnot, it actually has some skill set. He's not just some guy going out there just swinging wild for the punch, for the fences, but he's got some footwork. He's got some decent striking, and he looks like he's getting better and better, which is great. I'm not hating on the guy. I think what he's doing, he's marketing himself good, and he's and promoting himself very well and making himself a lot of money. It sucks when you see guys like a guy like Whittaker that's getting way less than a guy like that. But I mean it's a tough call. I see from both sides, but as a fighter from that side, I'm seeing it, and it's just like that's shitty.
It's definitely an unfortunate thing because, yeah, as you said, it was like they made like around $250,000, pretty much like as the highest from Whittaker and Gaslam on Saturday. But that's unfortunate. But I mean, that is the world that is MMA. Is they're not going to do much to really bump up the pay at that rate. But I mean, good for Triller. They got a thing. And who do you think's going next to fight Jake Paul? Because Jake's definitely got to fight by the end of the year. They have 2 pay-per-views kind of lined up that will bring in the casual combat sport fan, especially the next one has Evander Holyfield returning to the ring, and then and Teofimo Lopez and Oscar's the July pay-per-view. So I would think by the end of the year, Triller will have Jake Paul back. Who do you expect him to see? I know Tyron Woodley was calling his shot or whatever, but it's got like Dylan Dennis was out there, but I mean Dylan's kind of in the same boat. Dylan's kind of in the same boat as Ben in terms of the stand-up. I don't know, who do you see next for Jake Paul, the draw of combat sports?
Well, the fight was at 190, right, or whatever it was. Was it
yeah, 190? It was something around there. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of somebody like a middleweight that could fight. I'm just trying to think of somebody like.
Do we get Vitor Belfort?
Oh yeah, Vitor on TRT. Yeah, put him in there. You know what I mean?
Frank was on it.
How about Anderson Silva?
Yeah, I don't know why they don't do that. I think Anderson actually is boxing Julio Cesar Chavez's son coming up.
Is that happening? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that is happening. So after that, maybe we get Anderson Silva versus Jake Paul.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I mean, if you want to, I mean, this would. I mean, again, he's a wrestler, not really known for his hands, but they're better than Askren's. I would say if you really want to build this thing up, Chael Sonnen, baby. You get Chael Sonnen in there, that would be the best free fight hype ever. Even though Chael's older and retired now, but I don't know. Somebody that would be. I mean, I seen Cormier. I suggested Rockhold. That would be cool. Luke Rockhold. Yeah, I don't know, but it's got to be somebody that's bigger and actually has good striking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Askren was literally the bottom of the barrel pick for that. And I like Askren, but as far as boxing wise, it was horrible.
Well, I think Askren had the right mentality. I don't know if you saw the shot when he came out after getting knocked out. He was like, whatever. He had a big smile on his face. Like, most money I've ever made.
Yeah, exactly. He was retired already, and this came about and he just made $500,000, to go out there. And I mean, he got embarrassed. And I mean, that will always be there now, which kind of sucks. But now his family's probably secured, much better financially. So, I mean, I would, I would do the exact same thing in a heartbeat. Give me that $500,000. I'll go out there and fight some YouTuber.
Hey, any MMA fighter right now is clamoring for the opportunity at there right now, hey, that's also a solid business model. Let's see what we can do against these MMA guys and take with a YouTuber, quote unquote, now, because as Daniel Cormier said, like this, he's kind of like above your bum street fighter right now.
Who's that?
Jake Paul.
Yeah. No, yeah. I didn't think he was that, after seeing it, like, I think it's a guy that his fame came from YouTube. I still don't even know what the fuck he did on YouTube. Like, I don't know. I don't follow YouTube. So, but he's famous on that. And he found a passion for boxing and kind of used his fame to push that and hired the right coaches and had the right people around him to get him better. And I think he's been at it for like 3 or 4 years. He's an athlete. You can tell he's athletic. So, and now he's kind of cashing in on that.
And good on him. And I mean, the freak show, whatever it may be, I'm still going to plop down money. Like any event that has like a weird couple set of fights. Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube and Steve Urkel kicking off a pay-per-view. I mean, I'm there for that. Like,
I missed Steve Urkel, man. I was pissed about that. I got to see like a little glimpse of Ice Cube, which is cool. I love Ice Cube, but I missed Urkel.
Yeah, I marked out for Urkel. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, and they can get anyone from the TGIF shows on their next pay-per-view. Make that your gimmick as well. Open the show with Snoop and someone from a TGIF show. But did you think there was also
Carl Winslow?
Yeah, Carl Winslow next. Danny Tanner.
Danny Tanner. Yeah. Carl Winslow is Daniel Cormier. That's when they did the. Did you ever see that meme? Daniel Cormier versus Stipe, and it shows Carl Winslow and Woody Harrelson. That's gold.
Yeah. Only other thing I guess is like, I know a lot of people are upset with the pacing because it was a lot of the musical acts not really spaced out. Like, did that bother you? Clearly, by your reaction, it did. That
did, man. Like watching that, especially when those chicks were right there. I don't know who they were. I don't really follow, but they're just like twerking all over the dance floor. And I mean, I don't like that music, so maybe that's why I didn't like it. But I just felt it went on and on and on, and it just didn't end. It took forever. But yeah, there was too much music. Like I understand they're trying to make it, kind of like a concert with fights and have that entertainment value, but I think it was just a little bit too much of that.
I think that if they find a way to space it out a little better, because as we're still in a pandemic, like live music is key because people have missed live acts and seeing shows. If you can still have those events like that, great, but maybe one less act and space it out, because like the acts they had were well-known names, like as you said, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Justin Bieber was out there. I mean, the pride of Stratford, Ontario.
Bieber did good, man. I like Bieber, man. I'm not a Bieber hater like a lot of people are. I think he does some good shit.
Neither me. I thought the Biebs, he knocked it out of the park. He made Stratford proud.
Yeah. He's he's a local Ontario boy. So I support him.
Yeah, I support him. I mean, only thing also maybe a little too much Snoop. Like it was a little overkill of Snoop.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little overkill of everybody there, I think. But it was Mario Lopez just seems so out of place, when he's hanging out with Snoop and Oscar was all cooked up and that Pete Davidson guy, and it was funny.
Yeah, Pete Davidson was weird, especially when he's like shitting on the guy in your main event. Like, he's a bad person. I'm talking about Jake Paul. If you saw that interview with Pete Davidson and Ben Askren, he was like, yeah, he's not a good person. I was like, wow, you know what? You've already got our money, so I guess you can have that. But yeah, the broadcast booth was also a spectacle. Mario Lopez, though, to his credit, was the only one really trying to keep it professional.
He was. That's why. That's why he was so out of place. You know what I mean? Because he's so used to doing like all his like little ET live or whatever stuff he does like that. So, doing something like that was just totally off the rails. I think he was just like, "What the hell is going on here?" I'm trying to keep this, professional. But I like Mario. He's got a lot of love for the fight game too. So he's cool.
There was a moment with Oscar and his
thing. It's AC Slater.
Who can hate AC Slater? Who also doesn't age. Yeah, like he looks the same from Saved by the Bell as he does now.
Him in age already. I think he's younger than me now.
Yeah, he I don't even know how old he is, but he's still like 21 years old forever. But like there was a moment where that broadcast team broke Al Bernstein. You could see Al Bernstein not wanting to be there. He's like, I've done like championship boxing at the highest level for ESPN, for Showtime, and I'm sitting beside a legend of boxing who's just off his rocker right now.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, that was like, as much of a train wreck as it was also kind of sad. I thought Frank Mir had the perfect tweet about it. Like addiction isn't a joke or whatever, which is true because I know Frank's dealt with it himself. But man, someone really should have pulled the plug on Oscar, because this is a guy you're having on your show in July. Like, you don't want to diminish him to a joke before he gets there.
Yeah, I reposted Frank's thing because I said I think that was like the perfect response I think you could have had was something like that from Frank. It was very classy and truthful, and yeah, he was shitting on Frank during his fight too, like, and that was another thing. Frank did a lot better than I thought he was gonna do.
Yes,
so credit to him. I thought he was supposed to fight Tarver first, but right, which probably would have been a tougher match, but still, he fought again at his mind.
Steve Cunningham.
Cunningham. Yeah, that's a tough fight for anybody, right? But Frank looked good, man. He held his own. Like, he obviously didn't win the fight, but he did pretty good. He looked like he put in some training in there and prepared for it, and he looked good. But yeah, what he said about Oscar was spot on. And the guy's, I forget what he said during his fight, but just like, look at that, like, he's like, that was me, knockout, boom. Or then he kept saying like USSA, USSA.
Yeah, he could not get Steve Cunningham's nickname, which is USS, because he was in the United States Marine Corps.
Yeah,
but he called him USSR, USSA. Like, he went 0 for 45 on Steve Cunningham's nickname. It was, please get him like some help or something, because maybe just that alone, when he sees it back, will help him get the help. Is like they say with like alcoholics, or if you film them intoxicated and you show it to them, they like have kind of a breakthrough as they see themselves throughout whatever they've been through. But maybe that, but I don't. That was such a bad look for a legend of boxing.
Yeah, man. I mean, almost everybody you talk to is a huge De La Hoya fan. The guy did so many great things in the sport, and yeah, it kind of sucks to show that kind of side of him. And yeah, you never want to see that kind of dark side of somebody.
Well, we'll see what Triller does to like class it up, because I feel like they do eventually have to class it up a little bit. Like, it's one thing to have one show where it's like a commentary crew being like a couple of buddies hanging out or whatever, but if you're presenting a pretty solid world championship fight with Teofimo Lopez, like, you got to step it up for your next show, which is June 5th. So hopefully they get better, but I mean, they found the perfect rhythm for pay-per-view with the music, with the entertainment, and some decent names in combat sports. So all good on Triller. And apparently this show did. Sorry.
I was about to ask you, how did they do for sales?
So according to Mike Woods of Bad Left Hook, they did like around 1.45 to 1.8 million pay-per-view buys.
That's good, right? That's a lot.
That's amazing. That's like for a card headlined by a bad MMA striker and a YouTuber, that's incredible.
My prediction is the next card gets half that.
I would assume so.
Maybe even less. You know what I mean? Because I don't think they'll repeat that again. And I've seen a lot of people are like, give me my refund. You know what I mean? And a lot of people were like, I didn't even buy it. I legally streamed it and I still want a refund. You know what I mean? But I don't think it'll do that well. We'll see, especially without like a Jake Paul and Askren type fight. If it's just Evander Holyfield who's the girl you said? The
Teofimo Lopez, yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't really follow women's boxing, so I don't really know. But yeah, I don't think that's gonna do any big draws, and especially after this last one, I think it'll drop drastically. But we never know.
But it all depends on their marketing, right? Like, for the past couple of weeks, like, you couldn't go anywhere on social media or YouTube or anything without seeing an ad for Triller. Like, Triller will invest in that. I mean, I'm with you that it won't do like near the 2 million buys as what this show does, because they don't have the celebrity or the big marketable name like a Jake Paul. They'll bring some combat sports fans, especially for me. Like, I want to see what Holyfield can do at his age against Steve Eldridge. I want to say who it is, but I know I messed that up. But yeah, like, I don't know. They've got the right marketing. I'm gonna be interested, and they've already got like 2 shows lined up for June and July, so they're rolling.
Yeah. So it's the Old Timers League and the Freak Show League, basically, and then with they sprinkle a couple actual legit people in there too.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like what Bellator was doing a couple years ago, only like with a little more musical acts and saner commentary.
Yeah. I guess you're yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be real. Bellator tried this kind of thing with the Freak Show fights. Like, you remember Kimbo Slice out of 5,000, Shamrock Gracie 3.
Yeah, they did. They did do that for and it didn't really work for them either.
No, it didn't.
So, that's why, like, I don't know, is this thing just kind of like a little flash in the pan, or is it actually something that will continue on, or just something people are going to get sick of? But we'll see. I know Bellator totally switched their
Yeah.
their strategy up, and now they're building legit prospects and having signing really good guys. So we'll see what Triller does if they can keep this up.
Yeah, it's how do you keep the momentum rolling? I know it was a big week for them too. Like they bought the Fight TV website where you can buy pay-per-views online, so they're fully invested in this now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they continue and keep the momentum going because they still got their golden goose in Jake Paul, who's now, in the eyes of many, the best boxer in the world.
Yeah, it's a sad day.
It really is. But moving on, Josh, because, I mean, you can only talk about Triller for so much. I mean, the UFC also had a main event go head-to-head with Paul Askren, which was a much more competitive, much more interesting fight in Robert Whittaker, Kelvin Gastelum. And I thought Kelvin Gastelum, he looked really good, but Robert Whittaker was just a step ahead of him, looking a lot better. Like he won, I believe on my scorecard, all rounds, and I think that's what it ended up being. And Robert Whittaker, like a guy that, needed a break, well, he took his break, and it's worked out great for him because he more than likely is going to fight Israel Adesanya next for the UFC middleweight title.
Yeah, and that was a legit fight, and Whittaker looked great, man. He looked like just totally well-rounded. He beat Gastelum everywhere, striking, wrestling, grappling. Put on a clinic, and Gastelum, like you said, didn't look horrible. He was behind. You know what I mean? He just couldn't keep up to the pace. Couldn't get his rhythm, his timing, and Whittaker just kind of took it and ran with it for the whole 5 rounds, and he looked fabulous, man. So yeah, I would like to see the rematch with him and Adesanya. I mean, he does look a lot better, but Adesanya, man, he's hard to, he's such a crafty striker, and I don't know. I would like to see the rematch, and I think it would be much closer, competitive fight the second time around.
I think it will be. I think as well, like Whittaker had some injuries. He was mentally fatigued being the champion. Like he really didn't want to be involved or wanted the break. And obviously the commitments of being a champion, you can't take the break, but he took the break. And as I said, now he's won 3 in a row since July. So that's impressive. And I just think he's going to fight a different fight. He's going to be a little bit more loose. And this is a fight that could do killer business because Australia, New Zealand, where both Whittaker and Adesanya are from, are open. You can have events with people there. I know it's not exactly. They should do it there going on into the later towards the year, whatever. But I think it's going to be a fun, competitive fight. And I think we're going to see a much different Whittaker. He kind of didn't want to be there in the first fight, and it's totally a different mentality now. He's out there willing to call out and goad Adesanya as much as Whittaker does do that. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what they can do, and at least there's some clarity at 185 right now.
Well, yeah, is there though? They're talking about is it going to be Whittaker or that Vettori guy? But I think in my mind, I think it should be Whittaker. I just think he's beaten the tougher competition after the loss, and he's the former champ. But yeah, sometimes, man, a loss will do you really good, right? It kind of gives you that motivation. It kind of restarts things and gives you that break, like you said, he needed. And it kind of reinvigorates him. And yeah, he's looking great ever since, man.
Plus, it's a rematch, right? And something about rematches where you can kind of refocus yourself, like you've been in them. What's the different mindset going into a rematch from the first fight?
I've only ever done one, but it's just you felt this person already in there before, right? You've shared the cage with them. You know their strength, their speed, and so it just kind of. But they also know that about you, right? So it kind of just. It's it's hard to say. It's not really an advantage for either guy, but it kind of is too. But yeah, you have that familiarity of being there together already, so it kind of just amps it up even more. You know what I mean? See if we can make it a different this time around. I want a different outcome for that whoever the guy that lost, right?
Yeah, and I think we could potentially see it. Maybe, Whittaker saw some holes that Jan Blachowicz showcased. I mean, sure, that fight's at 205 pounds, but it's the first loss Adesanya's ever had in MMA, and there's some holes for sure that he's probably seen. I know Adesanya himself, though, is probably going to tighten up his wrestling and what have you. But I don't know. I think it's the fight to make. It can be a real fun fight, and especially with the oceanic side of things, with getting a show in a stadium down there during a pandemic, like that'd be just a crazy visual too. So I think it's something that they have to do. But all in all, like, I don't know if you saw much of the UFC card, Josh. It was kind of a slow night. Not much really happened. Thought Lupita Godinez looked really good in her debut. Even hit a Sid Justice power bomb in there against Jessica Penne. I thought she should have won the fight, but what have you, she didn't win that. But anyone really catch your eye other than the main event of Gastelum and Whittaker?
Yeah, that was right. I watched the Mearshart.
Jared Mearshart. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice sub. That was nice. And then I watched the first fight too. Gravely.
Oh, Tony Gravely, yeah. Anthony Burchak fight, yeah.
And Burchak, yeah. I remember I was supposed to fight Burchak long time ago, back in MFC. If you go back that far.
Wow.
Yeah, when I first started. But yeah, that was a good fight. That Gravely just kept tagging him with that, and then finally finished him on the feet with the and I think it was a left hook, I believe. But yeah, there wasn't really much else that really stuck out to me. Those are the ones that were really I was kind of focusing on.
I guess, I mean, the reason there is because we lost our co-main event just as they went on the air, with Jeremy Stevens pushing Drakkar Klose at the weigh-ins, and then Drakkar Klose pretty much got like severe whiplash, had concussion symptoms, and like a lacerated neck. So pretty much he got whiplash from it. But like, this was at the weigh-in where Klose has cut all that weight. His body's he's not expecting, and he's drained. So I mean, you can see that, but like Dana today said Sean Shelby should have jumped in there and expected it or whatever. But I mean, I don't think you're anyone expecting it. Sure, maybe Jeremy Stevens, but like, there's got to be some sort of fine for Jeremy Stevens here, because he just cost himself and Drakkar Klose some money here.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the push, and I was just like, whatever, that kind of stuff happens all the time, right? I don't know what the bad beef was, but why he pushed him. It was kind of out of nowhere.
I think it's just Jeremy being Jeremy.
I know, but the guy's had 30 UFC fights. Like, you know what I mean? Why did he just randomly do this to this guy?
I think he just does it to get in someone's head. Like, we've seen Jeremy Stevens, do things with his opponents before, get into their face, and just, he's kind of a wild card. Like, you don't know what's going to end up happening with Jeremy Stevens. Like, you remember the Yair Rodriguez altercation at the hotel after their eye poke incident in Mexico? Like,
yeah,
Jeremy's a wild guy.
Well, yeah, to have that happen and get a guy get injured from that and not be able to fight, it's pretty. I've never heard that before, right? Unless somebody fell off a stage or something. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. But it sucks for Jeremy, because it just cost him the fight, and it cost him his purse, I'm sure. And that guy lost the fight too. So it's all around, that's pretty shitty, man.
Yeah, I really hope that Drakkar Klose at least gets his show money, because he did make weight. But
yeah, he get a show. I mean, he better get a show. But I'd be asking for my full, just because, man, like, I didn't do anything. Like, I made weight, I was ready to fight, and this guy just pushes me, and now I can't fight because I'm injured.
It's bullshit. Are there rules for like touching? Obviously, you don't want to touch anyone, whatever. But I mean, it also makes for the spectacle sometimes. Like, we've seen, fighters touch and get super close. But there's got to be like a fine or something. I'm not asking for a suspension. There's got to be some money taken out, especially now where we've seen an incident at the weigh-ins like this cost a fight on a card.
I don't know. I would probably imagine it's probably commission by commission, wherever the state or province that they're fighting in has their own rule set. So I would imagine something like that. I don't know if they had anything in place for that, but probably not, just because it does happen often. Guys get in people's faces and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know, man. I could see them maybe giving them a fine or something like that, but
yeah. Well, hopefully Jakar Close can get healthy quickly and get this fight going, because now there's an extra intrigue for Stevens and Close whenever they end up making it. But I mean, that was a nasty push, and it's like he wasn't expecting it either, right?
No, yeah, for sure. But it just like we've seen that probably what 200 times that happened. You know what I mean? And it's never caused injury, right? It's kind of weird. I guess it was just a fluke injury. You know, really like you don't see that even when somebody pushes somebody unexpectedly. It's like it never usually causes that kind of severe damage.
I'd never heard of it. This is I think the first time in the history of MMA this has definitely happened. But yeah, I wish a speedy recovery for Jakar Close, and if this fight is brought back soon, definitely a little more security around the two of them at the weigh-in.
Yeah, they're not going to let it get too close to this one, right?
Yeah, maybe make sure Dana's there, because every time Dana's not there, this kind of tomfoolery can end up happening.
Always like, what's Sean Shelby gonna do there? Like
that's what I'm saying. What it's like he's supposed to do? It's like he's supposed to read everyone's mind.
Yeah, and it wasn't like there was a big thing animosity beforehand. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like there was some big huge thing, so they prepared for it. It was just they got close to each other, and then I don't know where he just pushed him. It wasn't even like it was like they started jockeying and started talking shit. Then he pushed him. It was just like out of nowhere. There's nothing could have been done.
Yeah, I don't think it's anyone Sean Shelby's fault at all. I mean, it's not like he's a mind reader or knows what's coming 5 seconds before the events happen. But I don't know. Hopefully Jeremy learned from his lesson. Keep your hands to yourself at the weigh-ins. You can throw them on fight day.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been like that. I don't think I think it's just stupid. You know, even like getting into. What's that?
Of course, you're the gentleman. You got to live up to that gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, like if somebody gets in my face, I'll engage with that. You know what I mean, and whatnot. If somebody pushed me, I'd push him back. But to me, it doesn't do anything for me. Like I'm gonna fight them tomorrow. You know what I mean? So for me to do that to them, I'm trying to up my ego and try to up my confidence. Maybe that's what they're doing, or they're trying to play mind games with somebody else. But I don't know. To me, that doesn't work, and you know. It's not part of my repertoire.
No, not at all. It doesn't make much sense, especially as you said, it's gonna, unless you're trying to make if you're a major star and you're trying to add some extra last minute buys for the casual fan or whatever. But this was on free television or whatever, and unless you're been following MMA for a long time, you don't really know much about Jeremy Stevens. So really, it worked all against Jeremy Stevens. I know what he was trying to do, but he ended up having to sit at home and back in his hotel room, not watching or not fighting, just watching. But hopefully,
big time.
Yeah, definitely. So Jeremy, definitely get in line and keep your hands to yourself for your next fight. But moving on, Josh, we got a pay-per-view this weekend, and our first pay-per-view with fans. UFC 261, not one, not two, but 3 championship fights headlined by Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal for the UFC welterweight title, a rematch from last summer. We have You have Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas, which to me I think is the fight to definitely be the most excited about. And then Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade for the women's flyweight title. I mean, 3 bangers, and we'll have fans.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Just to have some normalcy back, and it's shown already. Like how many there was at that baseball game between in Texas and the Jays. There was 40,000 people there. They had WrestleMania with 30,000 people there. So they've had all these fan shows and no huge outbreaks, no mass casualties of death. And I think we're good. So I'm happy to see that the fans are back, especially in a combative sport organization. So that's good, man. It's a step in the right direction again, and I'm pumped for that. And the fight should be good. Yeah, those are 3 good ones. The main event, Masvidal Usman. I would love to see Masvidal win. I'm cheering for him, but I think Usman's going to win. I think it'll be similar to the first fight, with a little bit more success here and there for Masvidal, but overall, I think Usman takes the decision. And then the other 2, I'm going to say Weili Zhang keeps it. and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Valentina. Valentina wins. I'm gonna say by decision though.
All solid picks. I know the UFC today announced like they've partnered with this health group for like how you can do like a health check-in going in. There's a full set of questions, and if you don't do it on the app, you have to do it there. So I mean, there are health precautions, and they're all providing masks, which can I believe the statement says you can or cannot wear the mask if you choose to.
Optional,
Like
yeah. So
that
that helps the health assignment. So what it is, it's a thing of questions, right? Saying,
yeah,
do you have all these symptoms, right?
yes, pretty much.
Do you think anybody's going to say yes?
Absolutely not. I mean,
You
do
know what
I? I mean, I've luckily never had that, but I went to the mall. They literally be like, "Do you have COVID or do you have COVID?" No, I mean, of course not. But I mean, there should hopefully be temperature checks or something. Obviously, you can't do a COVID test for everyone there because, like, what's the point? It'd be a waste of it. But health temperature checks, which night 2 of WrestleMania apparently they did. Night 1 they didn't. So there'll be ways to grow on it, but there is a form of making this as safe as possible. But it seems, I mean, UFC's trying to lead the way with getting fans back, and I know some states are having these events, as you said. The Texas Rangers are having fans, and some of these Major League Baseball teams are. So it's going to be the start. It's a much needed start, and it seems like that's the plan now for UFC for pay-per-views is we're going on the road. Like Vegas just opened up for July with Connor Dustin 3 at T-Mobile. So that's the start. And I mean, they're getting the vaccine rollout so fast out there. Like they're pretty much by the point they want, like maybe by the end of the year, half the country or more will be vaccinated. Where here in Canada, I mean, I still can't get a vaccine.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't want one, but if you did want one, you're living in the wrong country. That's for sure. Yeah, they've done a piss poor job of getting it out to the Canadian citizens that actually want it or need it. So that's just another thing that our Justin Trudeau has screwed up immensely, man. And just look at the States; they're doing a lot better job at it.
They've just rolled it out, and good for them. Like they had plans to open up the border by May. That's obviously not going to happen now. But I mean, that's how you get back to having live events in the States and other states and opening up your countries. You get this vaccine rolled out. Sure, some people may not want to take it or whatever. I think that if you want to end the pandemic, I'm for it. But I mean, it's at everyone's discretion, right? Like I don't believe they should be mandatory for anyone to take. But the more people getting a vaccine is the better. And now you can have these events. And what a card to kick things off now. And I don't know how many people will be vaccinated here from Florida. I know people have certain opinions on the vaccine out there, what have you. But Jacksonville and Florida as a state has been open pretty much since the start of the pandemic. And they get a killer card. I know it's Governor DeSantis. He will be at the press conference on Thursday for the UFC. Welcoming UFC into Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's embraced the UFC. Like the governor, the mayor, like they're all welcome to Florida once again, UFC. So, I mean, that's got to mean something, I guess.
I love that guy. I wish he was our prime minister. For real. I like what he did. I liked how he handled things. I liked the way he ran shit. I like how he got those that wanted vaccines and needed vaccines. They were available to them. He started with the most vulnerable, the group, and the most elderly and immune compromised, and they were able to get it if they wanted it, right? So I think he did things the right way, and I like how he's kind of embracing that and saying, "Come over here, let's live life." Let's keep it rocking. My buddy he was in Florida for 3-4 months. Since January till recently, and he just said it's like living life over there, man. It's like normal life. I mean, people, old people, young people, all together at restaurants, bars, hanging out, dancing, singing, just like it was before. And it's crazy that you look here in Ontario, well, where you are in Ontario right now. It's friggin' you get fined for going down the street, man. It's insane, So I like what he's done.
Yeah, well, Ontario is a whole other story, which I mean that could be a whole podcast on. But sticking with this card, I mean, obviously the main event, it's a rematch, two guys that don't like each other. I think obviously the full training camp helps Masvidal because he had to cut like 27 pounds in a couple days, and obviously that's minus a miracle flying knee or a big punch in the first round. Like you're not getting the likes of Kamaru Usman out of there, but if you're picking Masvidal, but if Usman wins this, like he's would have won two defended his title twice within 2 months. I mean, he's continuing to grow that legacy, and Masvidal's the name that really helps him right now, who turned his career around all in 2019.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a good one for Usman for sure. But yeah, a longer training camp definitely helps Masvidal for sure, and I hope he pulls it off. But yeah, I mean, Usman's beat him already. He's felt him in there already. He's seen what he has to do to win. Will it be exactly the same fight? Probably not exactly the same, but I think it'll be a similar outcome. I think. But yeah, I think it's a good matchup. Obviously, the game plans are pretty out there. Like Masvidal is going to want to keep the distance and try and knock him out, and I think Usman's going to want to close the distance and try and smother him and grapple him and ground and pound him and control him. I think those are the best keys to victory for either guy, and just whoever implements it better.
I think one of the big things for Masvidal in this fight is he has Mike Brown in his corner. Because of the last fight where Mike Brown couldn't be in his corner, Mike Brown had to be there on like FaceTime, which, I mean, as good as that may be morally, it's not going to be the same. There's delays with it and whatnot. Like Mike Brown's there in person in the corner, and Mike Brown's obviously one of the best coaches in mixed martial arts out there in Florida at American Top Team. And so I think if him being in the corner is going to be a big benefactor. Usman is probably going to want to wrestle a little bit more. But he's training up there with Elevation or with Trevor Whitman and Justin Gaethje. Like, training in that altitude is just such a different maker. Like, I don't know. I think this fight has a different spin than the first one, and I think it'll be a much more competitive fight at least.
Yeah, I think it'll be more competitive for sure. But, at the end result, I still think will be the same. But I hope Masvidal proves me wrong and catches him with something, because I'd love to see a guy like that get his due, and get a world title. Guy's been around forever and fought the who's who. So yeah, I'd love to see something like that.
It would be a sweet story for sure to see Masvidal win the championship, because he's the master of the split decision loss before he turned his career around in 2019. Fought everywhere, whether it was early day Bellator, Strike Force, Sengoku in Japan. Like, he's been everywhere. So this would be a nice icing on the cake. But I'm with you. I'm leaning Usman. I think Usman has just enough to. He's just on such a roll and trying to build his legacy. I think that, in the grand scheme of things, means a lot more than so much the title defense. It's building the legacy that he's trying to build, going after George St. Pierre for wins at welterweight in the UFC.
Yeah, well, legacies come with title defenses, right? So you got to get that title defense first. And yeah, he's, in my opinion, nowhere near George yet. You can go as far as wins, sure, you know what I mean? But as far as title defenses and who he's beat, George is just, man, he's
I agree, but he's getting to that point, and this would be a name to help continue the snowball rolling for him.
For sure. He's definitely. This will definitely be another. If he gets to beat Masvidal twice, it'd be a big name for him. But yeah, it's George is still up here, and he's working his way there, but he's not on George level then.
George also fought at a time where welterweight was insane, and he had like arguably the best division in, and even just like the guys he fought when he got into the UFC too were insane. So I don't know. It'd be cool to see someone compete with that record. I still think George is the greatest of all time, but someone making a run at history is always a fun thing to do.
For sure, yeah.
But the co-main event was the fight that I think I'm looking forward to the most. I don't know about yourself, Josh, but I think it's the most intriguing fight for the women's strawweight title. Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas. fight's kind of taking a weird political turn. I don't know if you saw Rose like pretty much talk about Wei Li from China and like being communist and whatnot, where Zhang's never really said anything about like her growing up, but Rose kind of made herself look bad in that interview with Ariel Helwani. But if it spices up the fight, I mean, Rose is being totally honest, it makes it interesting, but I just think the fight alone with their styles just makes it the most interesting fight on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I didn't like. All I heard was like the one thing, like better off dead than red. But
Yeah,
I don't know in what context it was said. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was just like a shot at her or a shot at where she's from, or I don't know. So I can't really comment on what she said. I mean, I don't like communism either, so I'm with that. But I don't know what she said about it, so I can't really say.
no, I just think like she was basically asked a question by a Lithuanian reporter, which is her heritage about this fight and whatnot, and she said that quote like better dead than red, which obviously is an old like quote from like the Cold War era and whatnot. I don't know. I just didn't think I wasn't expecting like communism talk to be brought into this fight between two fighters that I didn't think had any issue with anyone. And then like understand her Namajunas' background. She's Lithuanian. Obviously, Lithuania was a former part of the Soviet Union. I don't know how much she grew up with in Lithuania. Obviously, her parents had some effect with that, but I just wasn't expecting that. And well, here we are. And I mean, especially from Zhang, who's never talked about her upbringing or anything from China.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know then. Who knows? I mean, everything nowadays gets turned into something political and something about racism and something about gender equality. Like there's always something nowadays. It can't ever just be about sport. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a shame. But the fight itself is awesome. It's a good one. I think Weili Zhang, her striking's good. I think she'd probably be the faster of the two. Rose would be the taller and longer of the two. Probably better grappling if it gets there. Weili Zhang probably has, I don't know, probably better wrestling. I don't know. It'd be pretty close in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. I could see it going all different ways, but I think if I had to put my money down, I'd probably say Weili keeps the belt. I don't know how. Maybe decision, or she gets like a TKO.
I'm leaning decision because Rose is like minus that flute spike pile driver that just Andrade hit her with is really, yeah, she's really hard to finish. And Zhang's coming off obviously a fight of the year where she threw some big bombs against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and Joanna landed some big shots on her as well that would have put most strawweights away. So I'm leaning decision. I just think Zhang will find a way to push it into the deeper waters. I don't know. I'm just expecting a real close competitive fight. Like I'm not expecting a 50-45 or 49-46. I'm going 3 rounds to 2 for someone, and I'm leaning Zhang.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yep.
Well, hopefully that fight lives up to the hype, and kind of interesting as well that they packed this card with 2 women's title fights. Obviously, Shevchenko, maybe Andrade, as good of a fight as it is, and I think that 125 division really needs it. Doesn't maybe sell as much as what Namajunas and Zhang can do, especially with, as I said, with Zhang coming off a fight of the year, and everyone knows Rose for her incredible battles that she's had in the cage. But as you said, you're picking Shevchenko against Andrade, but I mean, it's a fight. Andrade has a chance, but are you giving her any bit of hope, Josh?
I give her a bit of hope. She's she's short, she's stocky and powerful. I think she definitely tag her, and she could get in on the hips and cause her some difficulty there if she gets her down too. But I think Shevchenko has good enough footwork, good enough movement, distance control. I think she'll be able to kind of keep her out there, use her jab, and kind of pick her apart for most of the fight. And yeah, I don't know how she finishes it either. I don't know. Possibly a TKO or just kind of controlling her, beating her up for majority of it, and maybe getting a decision as well.
I'm picking Shevchenko But I guess my one other question for you, like Shevchenko's on this run of dominance, but do you think she's kind of getting bored against some of the competition in there? Because as good as Andrade is, this is her only second fight at 125 pounds. I think Andrade can push her, but she made a quote like, most of my opponents aren't like good, true, talented, good competition. Something along those lines. I can't remember the exact quote, but do you think she's kind of getting a little bored?
I don't know. I hope not, because when you get bored, that's when you become.
That's when trouble happens.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of get a little too lackadaisical, and shit happens, right? But we'll see if she kind of is motivated and continues and wants to continue her run and be at the top and be on her A game. Then I think she can win it. But I mean, Andrade is no joke for sure. She's a little powerful beast.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this pay-per-view. It's going to be interesting to see what fans are back like. I mean, heard only glimpses of it back in Abu Dhabi on Fight Island back in January, but it'll be fun, and that'll just help add it. And I think they picked the right guys to main event with two Florida boys and Masvidal and Usman. So this will do, I think, well on pay-per-view. And I think it's going to do well on pay-per-view just on the curiosity of the fans, kind of like the curiosity of the freak show that we got last weekend of Triller. I'm not expecting like almost 2 million pay-per-view buys, but I'm expecting a pretty solid number for the UFC.
Yeah, probably. Maybe just because, like you said, it's the first fight back with the live attendance. And there is 3 titles. That always helps. So, yeah, I think it'll do okay. It won't be amazing, but it'll do all right.
I mean, also we got Chris Weidman, Uriah Hall on the card. That's a pretty good fight at middleweight. I mean, they've kind of really stacked it up a bit. This is a really good card, all the way down. Some good fights like Tristan Conley. He's back after, his multi-bonus performance against Michelle Pereira, against Tristan Conley, or against Pat Sabatini, former CFFC champ. So there's a lot of fun fights. You definitely don't want to miss the prelims and main card with 3 title fights that we just broke down. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, any fights that are on, I'm always excited for, right? So as a fight fan, it's the more the better. So yeah, I'm pumped for these ones.
And lastly, just going over Bellator. Honestly, Corey Anderson, what a statement! Getting Yagshamirdov out of there in the 3rd round, and really a real wild card as we talked about. And he was the ultimate joker, I guess, against the wild card there. But I think Anderson now has to be the favorite in this tournament.
Yeah, you think so? I don't know. I mean, when Anderson does what he does good, he's hard to deal with. He takes guys down, controls the shit out of them, and ground and pounds them. That's what he does best. But I still think there's some guys in there that can give him some trouble. I mean, any of the other ones, really. Bader, when he's on his game, good wrestling defense too. Nemkov is striking is much better, I think, if he keep it up on the feet. And then you got the freaks, Yoel Romero and Rumble Johnson. I think Yoel Romero is probably a tougher matchup for Corey Anderson than Johnson is, just due to the wrestling background. So yeah, there's some interesting matchups there, man.
I guess the best way to put it is the tournament really doesn't begin until May 7th when Rumble Johnson and Yoel Romero finally fight, because hopefully that fight does well. And Nemkov, he looked great as well, a step above against Phil Davis. Like, Phil Davis is always so durable. Still can't be finished, whether he loses when he loses a fight.
He needed to wrestle more. He got caught up in a kickboxing match, and he just continued to do it. He just needed to keep pushing that pace wrestling, but kind of got away from it, and Nemkov capitalized.
And then Nemkov now, he meets the winner on May 7th of Romero Rumble, and we know it's going to be Bader and Anderson, where I think that fight is the one that intrigues me, because both guys used their wrestling in the quarterfinals. Now in the semis, like, that wrestling kind of cancels out, and it's going to have to be left on the feet, where I guess maybe you would give Bader the edge, but I think Anderson's really turned his career around. Like, he only had 3 finishes in the UFC. He's already 2 for 2 in Bellator, so he's finding ways to wind and grind guys down. Yeah,
that makes for it's always cool when 2 wrestlers go at it, because you never know what's going to happen. Either somebody's going to get the advantage and be on top, and it's probably going to be a bad night for that other guy, or it's going to turn into a striking war, right? So we'll see.
Hopefully, Bellator markets the heck out of this UFC Bellator 258 card with obviously Rumble and Yoel on it. But I mean, it's such a good card as we talked about off the top. I mean, you're on it. I mean, it's a bantamweight showcase galore. They lost James Gallagher, unfortunately, so he got hurt. But there's just so many quality fights on that event, highlighted by the right fight to make with Rumble and Yoel. I mean, Juan Archuleta's defending the bantamweight title. I mean, it's if you like bantamweights, this is a card definitely check out for. But they got to market this card hard because this show didn't 257 for Bellator didn't hit the top 150 in the ratings, which kind of surprised me because Bellator on Showtime, I thought they'd at least crack that, but they didn't, and they got to hit that nail hard because that's a fight that any fight fan is going to want to see.
I think they'll do a lot better with that one because that's I mean, the rest of the card is great too, but that's the one where a lot of people are like really craving for, right?
And it's got to make you feel good to be on like such an amazing card, right? To make your first fight of 2021 on arguably maybe the deepest Bellator card in history. Like they've gone away from the local boys on the prelims. They're stacking them up well. Like Pedro Carvalho was on the opening bout last Friday, and he's a guy that fought for a featherweight title not too long ago. So I like this mindset from Bellator.
I do too. Man. I like what they're doing. So continue doing it. The deeper the division, the harder the fights.
Exactly. Well, and you're changing the perspectives we talked about time and time again on this show. So, well, Josh, I mean, can't forget also PFL starts this week. Friday night, PFL's back. They're featherweights, lightweights. I mean, headlined by their new toy, Anthony Pettis against Clay Collard. So, I mean, that's the tournament I'm looking forward to the most, is both the featherweights and the lightweights, because they're just deep, and it's nice to see PFL back too, another option out there.
Yeah, exactly. I love, like I said, we always say the more shows the better, and I do like what they do. It's different, right? It's a different spin on things. It's not just your regular fight card. It's a seasonal type thing, so that's pretty cool. So I'm happy they're back.
And they've made sure like stricter penalties for weight misses, because last time they had a season, it was, I guess you get the walkover points, and I don't believe you're getting walkover points or some sort of fine or whatever, because there were a couple fighters that made their finals or their playoffs, I should say, that didn't have to fight. They got walkover points and got in there.
Oh, really? Okay, I don't know about that, but I like the harsher penalties about missing weight.
Yeah, we gotta get the red card in there, where or like Ryzen, where if you miss weight and you win, you didn't win. It's a no contest.
Yeah, I mean, something like that, something that's gonna like really hit home with you, not just like 20% of your purse. It's got to be bigger than that,
Yeah, you didn't win. So, I mean, Japan always a step ahead with the rules, as we've talked about before. But Josh, I'll let you go. I'll let you check out an episode of Yellowstone or something as you wind down from
I'm already done season 1, 2, 3. I'm waiting for 4, not till June.
Not till June. Well, only a few months away. Maybe you can rewatch to get caught up. I don't know. I don't know what you're watching out there. What are you watching?
Everything. I'm just catching up on what I can't watch when I'm at home with my daughter that didn't give us a second to watch anything. So actually, what movie I watched? I'll say I watched a movie from, it's like 2001. It's called Frailty, and it's with Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton, and it was one that just kind of slipped through in the cracks, and I didn't see it ever. And anyways, go back and watch it, man. Really good flick, really good.
Frailty with, Matthew McConaughey is always a good time when you watch him in the lead. So I'll definitely have to check it out. I mean, Josh, I know you're all about the films, so you definitely got to write a blog or something about what you've been watching or something and post it on.
Maybe I'll do that. I'll do something like that.
Well, Josh, obviously have yourself a good little couple more weeks out there before you head out to Connecticut for Bellator 257. Plug yourself out there on the IG where people can find you.
At Gentleman J Hill.
All right, and link is in the description already for you to follow our good old gentleman of mixed martial arts. You can follow me on Instagram at jhagholm or on Twitter at jhagholm1. Like, rate, subscribe. We're doing these shows live now. Hope you like them. All in all, Josh, same bat time, same bat channel next week.
Sounds good, my man. Thank you, brother.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.